If you think about the typical way to plan learning experiences, we start with the standards or learning objectives. And then we plan instruction, learning experiences, activities, all kinds of things. And then we end up planning an assessment to see how well the kids have learned those learning objectives. If you look at the backward design process that really was made famous by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe in their book, Understanding by Design, you kind of flip that a little bit, right? You start with identifying desired results. What do you want the students to know and be able to do? Then you design assessments that would show you whether students understand or are able to do that. And then you design learning experiences that will help students be successful on those assessments and have that understanding. This is how many of us plan curriculum, right? How we write and draft curriculum. I was talking to Jay McTighe on my podcast, the Backwards Podcast, a few weeks ago. And one of the things we discussed a little bit is how this idea of performance tasks are almost even a little bit more important than standards right now. Because if we can come to an agreement on options for a performance task that allow students to demonstrate their understanding, then we can have a real clear idea of whether or not they're meeting those objectives and getting those desired results. Part of the problem is when we create curriculum or we create assessments or we create instruction, a lot of times we do it with this, we're going to create it, use it, and then move on mentality. And so this is where I think design thinking becomes a really big piece of the puzzle. If you don't understand what design thinking is, it's also really kind of interesting to kind of juxtapose with that backwards design model, and they both have the word design in there. Design thinking is all about starting with empathy for whoever you're creating for. In our case, it would be for students. And then seeing how well it works and making it change and making an iteration or adaption based on how well it works. So for example, if we were creating an assessment, a performance task, using the design thinking process, we would create that with, thinking about, all right, how well have our students done in the past in these different types of activities? How well are they understanding it right now? What situations are going on? Are they at home in a remote situation? Are they in hybrid? Because it looks a little bit different than if they're all with us every single day and we're working everything, our kids being absent. Is there a lot of other stuff going on in their life at the same time? And so then you create it, and what happens is, based on how well the students do, you make revisions to that. For example, say you created an assessment and the fourth question was an open-ended response question, and 90% of your students got that wrong. Well, that would let you know as a teacher that you missed something along the way, right? That as a teacher, we missed something with the class and the students, and that the fact that 90% of them got it wrong, the idea of just covering the material wasn't enough. There was no understanding that happened prior for them to kind of show a demonstration of understanding. So either you change your instruction and learning activities for the next time you do this, you maybe have to go back and do something along those lines, or you take that out because it's really actually not relevant. That's design thinking. We actually use something called the launch process that my co-author John Spencer and I modeled as a way to do design thinking in K through 12 in a process that actually works. So you start with the L, which is look, listen, and learn, right? You start with that empathy piece to really look at who you're creating for. Then you ask tons of questions to your colleagues, to your students, to Google, right? You ask tons of questions to really figure out, all right, what is the process we're trying to do here? What is the problem we're trying to solve? And that's that the understanding the process of the problem. Only then do you start to navigate ideas. Navigating ideas would be, hey, what's the best way I can create an assessment? Maybe it's multiple forms of assessment, multiple performance tasks, and you come up with ideas. After you come up with ideas, then you create the prototype. Maybe the prototype is a choice board that has a bunch of different ways in which the students are assessed. Maybe it's one assessment that you think actually works for your students. Only after you get the prototype out there, you give that assessment, are you going to be able to highlight what works and fix and iterate what doesn't work. That's that H stage. And from there, it brings you back to the look, listen, and learn, where you can identify what was working and change what wasn't for the next round with assessments and with the whole process. And so that's why design thinking is such a powerful way to frame how we design learning experiences, assessments, and ultimately curriculum.